Welcome everyone to the very first Scale Them webinar. Spoiler alert, you are about to watch a demonstration of how effervescent, experimental, democratic innovations of all kinds can be bridged and understood through rigorous qualitative and quantitative research that we've performed here at the European University Institute. I'm your host, Calypso from EUI, along with Andrea Gaiba. And I'm introducing here the wonderful research team here at EUI, led by Ulrike, with Max, Idlar, and Noga. And we're very excited and happy to share this research that has been the result of sweat and tears for the last few months. And we will be very excited to hear your feedback and commentaries. So on this note, let me pass the floor now to you, Ulrike.
Thank you. Welcome. We are delighted to have you here and to share our curiosity about a big question. How can we strengthen democracy in Europe, making it more resilient, more inclusive, and more globally influential? In this webinar, we introduce key insights from the Scale Them project. Our starting point is simple. To renew democracy in times of crisis, three things matter. First, investing in innovation. Over the past 2 decades, EU programs like FP7, the Framework Programme 7, Horizon 2020, and Horizon Europe have funded hundreds of projects on democracy, culture, creativity, and inclusion, many developing new democratic practices and tools. Second, turning scattered experiments into a shared compass. Scale Them aims to help Europe learn from what works, mapping democratic innovations, assessing their performance, and identifying conditions and pathways for scaling them. The third element for making democracy alive and revive again, bridging research and real-world practice. To succeed, democratic innovation must move beyond pilots, must move beyond scattered experiments. That means policymakers, practitioners, and researchers working together to translate insights into future-ready policy and institutional change. Now let's take a look at our roadmap for today. We will start with Scale Them's analytical lens. Max will be introducing them and showing how our knowledge map for democratic innovations works. Then Ilda will take you from complexity to policy insights, democratic innovations in a qualitative comparative analysis. And then fourth, we will draw some early lessons from these emerging practices. And at the end, formulate for discussion key messages and pathways ahead. So please, Max.
Thank you, Ulrike. So first, our analytical lens is based in 4 dimensions of scaling. So we think about how a democratic innovation can scale, not just in the most common sense is so grow, but we think in different dimensions how that growth can be. So the first dimension is the most intuitive one, is scaling out, and this includes the adoption of a democratic innovation in new locations, but also the uptake at higher or lower levels of governance, as well as a transversal diffusion. But the scaling can also happen towards the government in the sense of embedding itself, or embedding its products in consolidated power structures, as well as in the adoption of innovations, outputs into policies or laws, and the formal rules or mandates that policymakers make. It can also happen towards itself. That means towards the improvement of quality. And that means the a democratic innovation that gives equal voice and support to all the participants, to all the stakeholders, citizens, and policymakers and such, and that is transparent, fair, well-structured in its procedures and its rule, that has clear agendas, coherent processes, and tangible outcomes, as well as a strong feedback loop that includes citizens for more engagement with them, as well as in a strong evaluation performance. But we are also a little bit more ambitious in our analysis, because we also want to see how one can scale deep. That means into the political culture. And that can happen in the increase of trust and satisfaction in democracy for citizens, and a stronger belief in democratic values, in having pride, hope, and belonging in the civil engagement, as well as in participants feel heard and politically recognized. And most importantly, in the continued participation after the democratic innovation is over. So this is the way that we have devised our analytical lens. And with this, we have created a knowledge map, which you can see it's basically a matrix where we have put the dimensions of scaling and the potential in one of the axes, and the other one is composed by the families of democratic innovations, as they are traditionally known. So according to its format and in its characteristic, which can be administrative, deliberative, digital, electoral, direct, or participatory. The good thing about this is that democratic innovations are not static and usually don't conform to just one cell. But they can scale in different dimensions, and they can pertain to different families. So this is what we have found building our knowledge map, with cases found in the CORDIS database. This, as Ulrike said, these are cases, most of them Horizon projects, but also FP7, Marie Curie, and others. And what you can see here are the acronyms of the projects that contain cases of democratic innovations and that we have mapped according to these coordinates. If you go, and please scan the QR that you can see on the screen, please go there and go into our matrix, so you can see the different characteristics that these cases have. So you can go to our site, and when you go and click in each of these acronyms, you can have a pop-up about the characteristics of the democratic innovation case, but also why the family and the dimension of scaling are the ones that they have. So with this living knowledge map, and we call it living because we have only 61 cases right now, but we are amplifying it to 300 towards next year, we developed the QCA, the qualitative comparative analysis.
And to be exact, there are many more than just 300 cases of democratic innovations to be found in this formidable CORDIS database platform created by the European Commission some 20 years ago. And how do we deal with this? How do we embrace this complexity? Yes, we have mapped the cases, the many cases of democratic innovations, and assessed them according to their scaling potentials and the focus on which their innovation builds, in which part of the political, administrative, social, civil society, cultural system it centers. Then we get to the conditions, and the conditions for scaling successfully, and how these conditions may combine. And finally, the aim is to help design and identify combinations that are successful, that perform more strongly, in ways that can inform policy designs for future democratic innovations. And to show you how exactly we have done this, I give the word to Ilda.
Thank you, Ulrike. So here you see the scaling potential and the performance on the outcome on the two axes in this graph, right? In this, the outcome relates to the level of performance. And we had a lot of debates about the operationalization of both the scaling dimensions and the outcome itself. With regard to the outcome of high performance versus lower performance, we decided to agree that we talk about higher performance projects when innovations embed institutionally or culturally, or when scaling works in some dimensions or contexts, but perhaps not all. That said, when they still generate useful insights. And these we measure on the y-axis, whereas the x-axis is the performance on the combinations of different scaling potentials for scaling in, scaling high, scaling out, and scaling deep. So as you will see in the upper right quadrant, we have the strong performers, right? The cases where we see the outcome present and the right success factors in place. These are our role models. These are the cases that show how the right conditions can lead to successful scaling. In the second quadrant, in the upper left, we have the unexpected wins. So these are the cases that succeeded even though they didn't have all the expected success factors in place, all the scaling potential. So these are surprise stories, right, which are worth studying to see what other factors might explain the high level of performance. In the third quadrant, we have the path testers. So these cases, while they do not necessarily tell us too much about how scaling works, they can be useful in combining them with within a comparative perspective with, for example, the high with strong performers, to see how exactly the success factors led to the outcome, what was the process. And finally, in the fourth quadrant at the bottom right, we have the missed opportunities. So these cases offer us bittersweet lessons of how the success factors might have been in place, but the cases did not perform as expected. And these are useful because they can reveal hidden barriers or missing pieces. And they are interesting for us to follow up on nonetheless. And how do we get to this first quadrant of strong performers? So you see here that we also mapped out some of the project cases for you. You can also take a look at the details of the report if you're interested, where each project belongs. But let's proceed to the combinations that we have discovered empirically. So the preliminary results so far show two empirically prominent paths, right? These are not exclusive, but nonetheless, they were most prominent in the analysis, which is why we present them to you. The first combination is between the scaling high, scaling out, and scaling in that leads to a high level of performance, right? So this includes cases that spread geographically and include a high number of citizens that also gain at the same time formal political or legal backing and improved their own quality and integration into local governance systems. The other combination of conditions was between scaling out, scaling in, and scaling deep that led to higher level of performance. And this includes cases that spread geographically with a higher level of with a high number of citizens, that strengthened their own internal quality, but also fostered cultural change and civic norms change. So being ingrained deeply in the, so to speak, everyday life, right? And most interestingly, these two also overlap on several occasions. So we have several cases that appear in both lists, and these cases are particularly valuable for us as these are the cases that achieve both institutional anchoring and cultural embedding. And in that sense, following up on these case studies would be helpful to understand the conditions under which high performance takes place, but also the tools by which some cases may provide designs that combine both, so to speak, pathways, right?
Thank you, Ilda. Now let us get to what I announced before, from this complexity, taking a leap towards policy relevant insights. So what we have done is cluster many of these cases in 3 clusters. 2 more strongly performing, the pathbreakers, and the pioneers. You could already show them. So pathbreakers show what it takes to innovate, how to push boundaries, try out new ways, take risks, while pioneers address what it takes to last, consolidate, endure, transfer. So, and for each of these 2 clusters of more successful cases of democratic innovation, you see some tongue breakers, the acronyms, and I would like to ask Noga to please explain and show us what AECED stands for. Please, Noga.
AECD is Aesthetic and Embodied Learning for Democracy, one example of a project that really is scaling deep, quite explicitly, and probably effectively, though it is still in course. And it's a project that enables school pupils to focus on those values that are most crucial to democratic norms and feelings of fairness, based within educational settings. They are trying to foster care and tolerance, those democratic values, and thereby learning how to communicate and help to transform minds. And so one example of what they've been doing is, in a very innovative ways, they produce, for example, producing a game of cards to which corresponds a video that the students or pupils produced. One, for instance, on empathy, to communicate discomfort, to learn how to communicate discomfort without attacking others, and therefore to promote emotional well-being. Another one was on transparency, to promote a sense of trust in politics and in everyday life, the one feeding off the other. And so all this enables the students to formulate bottom-up what they feel are norms conducive to democracy, and to learn how to communicate them, and thereby also to foster them.
Thank you. And games are used to learn new routines also, no? It's not a one-off experiment, but it's going on, developing new practices. Now let's get not to the pioneers in detail, but to the path testers. Path testers, you have seen them on the performance map before in the lower left side quadrant. And there are a few projects, not many, but that have failed to scale, and that have failed also in overall outcomes. But why? These are critical lessons to teach us, researchers and also practitioners. They tried something new but stumbled, but why? And so we want to dig deeper and understand why this was the case. For example, for gender quotas, which was a project in Albania. It's a local level, looking at localities, municipalities where gender quotas helped to address corruption, leading to lower corruption, which could appear as a successful project, but they didn't manage to make this last, and neither to scale it out to other contexts and experiment and try how to make it endure, consolidate. So from these early lessons from 61 projects and cases, which we have looked at more closely, let's get now to our last slide, key messages and pathways ahead. Yes, we should acknowledge the bittersweet lessons learned from the achievements as well as from the failures if we want to advance democratic resilience. We need also to dig deeper to uncover what is behind the patterns and dynamics of these scaling processes that have been stronger or weaker, which are the obstacles, the hindrances, and which have been the strategies enabling breakthroughs against all odds. For doing this, digging deeper, we need more than just exploring the CORDIS database with its documents and outcomes and results. We need interviews, focus groups, and we are just starting with this next phase. Then third, this is now a call for researchers as well as practitioners and policymakers. Let's embrace complexity without exploring a diversity of pathways, performances, and solutions, and doing QCA and other using other methods from some plus minus 300 cases from the overall 600, which I think we could find in the CORDIS database. This is a necessary condition. It's necessary, but not yet sufficient. We need to foster dialogue between the three clusters or groups of researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. We need to hear, to listen to the subjective stories and weave them, link them to a collective democratic narrative for the next phase for democracy's next transformation in the 21st century. And this means, in other words, to wrap it up, co-develop a grounded theory of scaling, grounded based on several grounds: CORDIS, interviews, storytelling, to develop, construct a shared compass that steers Europe's next democratic transformation.
Well, thank you, Ulrike. And we very much collectively hope that this will inspire many comments and questions on the part of our audience. Thank you very much.